Well,
Hey,
I didn't hear our theme song.
I didn't either.
Oh
Art,
well.
art, art,
Art,
art with
art, art,
David
ready today.
Reed and
Hey!
Tom Galvin.
Yeah,
Show Moy.
I heard it in my head.
yes, yes.
Oh, that was
To
fun.
our viewing audience, we do usually have a song to accompany. Shantae is saying, sorry, all. Don't ever apologize, Shantae. We're just so
Okay.
blessed to have you that we can miss a theme song every now and then,
And the
and we're
visuals
okay.
are, stunning in and of
Yes,
themselves.
they
Yes, they
are.
are.
All of our favorite pictures of
Of
us.
us,
Well,
yes.
some of them. We have
Yeah.
thousands. But
All three of us former professional models, and so we like to stay in that game a little bit.
And we're
ah,
known to selfie a little bit.
Do
well,
you
it's
ever
so
get?
good. So good to be here all together again.
Yes,
It is. It
I
is.
miss you guys.
When I think of former models, I think of Yahoo News. I look at Yahoo News sometimes, and every other segment of Yahoo News is Halle Berry rocks a pink bikini on the beach, or Elizabeth Hurley at 56 rocks a bikini in her backyard, or everybody's rocking their bikinis. So, as the former models that we are, I don't know. Maybe
Time
we're
to
missing out here.
rock that Speedo, Tom. Come on, man.
Rock the speed. Yeah.
Hello. I heard somebody was actually swimming in Ellis Lake the other day. Did you hear this?
Yes, it was my
Did you?
wife,
Well,
unfortunately.
well. Oh gosh, that aside. But I thought someone was out there doing laps. Did you or Abby or
No, no,
somebody saw them?
really doing laps there.
Seriously, we're out swimming, just swimming in the lake, which I think is a
Now,
no-no.
doing
Yeah,
laps is good for your health, but not in Ellis Lake.
not in
I
Ellis Lake.
can't. I think there's a
Not
counter.
yet.
No, I wouldn't think so.
A lot of
So
good
Yeah,
people are working very hard to get that water quality back to what it needs to be, but
yes,
it's not
but
there yet.
not there quite yet.
not enough to swim laps.
So we'd like to just a public service now. PSI here. Please don't swim in Ellis Lake.
No.
Thank you.
Yes,
And it's
you're
rather
welcome.
hard to get in and out of, honestly.
It kind of is. Yeah, it's not user friendly right now.
Unless you're
But
down by the
hopefully,
boat ramp or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
it's a little easier.
They used to have speedboat races in there. Those little,
I've heard these stories. Yeah.
yeah, used to race up under the bridge and all that stuff. It was pretty cool. Loud, but
we see the occasional kayaker. We live across the street from Ellis Lake. We see the occasional kayaker, which I don't know if that's legal or not, but it looks like a fairly good place to kayak.
Were you there,
Last,
Tom, a couple of years ago when I don't know who the individual was, but they had I guess a contract to do it legally, but they had that World War II vintage amphibious vehicle.
oh yes, yes, yeah, yeah,
You'd already moved here.
yeah.
They do that, of course, in San Francisco, and I did it in Washington D.C. and we were just in Boston. We were all signed up to do it, but we got rained out, so we couldn't do I guess they're called duck tours,
yeah.
Uh-huh.
and it wasn't at that level here, but just the idea of jumping in that thing and taking a lap, and those boats are kind of fun to be in.
Yeah, I bet. I wasn't.
As long as you're
part
not
of that,
being
but-
shot at when you're landing in Normandy. But,
Yeah, it's fun if on Ellis Lake, not so much on D-Day.
yeah,
But things are relative.
that's true. That's
Same
true.
vehicle, put them in different situations, and
I was
you're-
sorry not to see it return because I thought that was kind of cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I hope they do the cardboard box races
Oh.
again someday.
I've heard about that too.
Yeah, those were fun. I actually did
It's like-
one time.
It's like we were talking before we came on. All the stuff that happened here before Tom, you and I moved here. I mean, you're a real newcomer. I've been here for 12 years. Beckworth Days, cultural celebration, cardboard boat races on Ellis Lake. What happened?
Well, I think you're doing a lot to bring back some really interesting things. You and Abby managing the Arts Council. I think you're doing a lot, but yeah, there's
Well, we all are. You guys are deeply involved too with community art and culture.
So maybe someday in 10 years, if we have replacements, I don't know, or 20 or 50,
Hopefully.
people will look back and say, well, boy, I wish I were here when David and Abby were running the Arts Council. And whatever happened to that great show, All About Arts? I wish I'd been there during that time.
Right? Come on. Hey, you guys are both on the board now. You're part of the joy here too.
Yeah, but you're the ideas man, David. So we'll yield to you.
You're
So,
the grant
about
writer
that?
too.
yeah, you're the grant writer. You get the
Well, you're-
stuff happening.
Well, your Weird Art News this week ties in with a show we'll talk about here in a minute that Joe's putting together. So, Tom, what do you got?
Why don't I whip right into it
Yeah.
then and introduce Weird News, which is entitled "Who Wrote Shakespeare?" Did Shakespeare write the plays attributed to him? Some notable thinkers think not. Some say Ben Jonson or Francis Bacon or Christopher Marlowe or the Earl of Oxford wrote them. Some say Shakespeare was a woman. I looked into this. There was a Hilda Shakespeare, but she was a seamstress. Hilda Shakespeare did not write the plays to my knowledge. Shakespeare scholar Patrick Cheney says lunacy, and he says it actually. He said lunacy, and he does add an apostrophe or whatever they call that. Yeah. He's serious about the word lunacy. He calls all the questions conspiracy. He cites their argument that Shakespeare was too poorly educated to write such brilliant work. Cheney cites early education received from grammar school in Stratford, and that even in this pre-library age, he was a voracious reader. I usually think of voracious in terms of food, so I don't know if he ate his books, if he read them, or read them and then ate them. But the questioners question, how could he write so knowledgeably about royal life since he was a commoner? Now, at the risk of being too pedestrian, how could Gene Roddenberry write Star Trek without being an astronaut? How could Agatha Christie write murder mysteries without having a criminal rap sheet? Those who claim that the plays were written by the Earl of Oxford flies in the face of the fact that the Earl died in 1606. The Tempest was written in 1610. It's hard to find what Hemingway called a clean, well-lighted place when you're dead. I don't think it's easy to write plays when you're dead, but that's an ongoing issue. I don't have all the facts on that. But the argument that his working class roots made it unlikely that he could ever write such sophisticated work, being the son of a glover, is not only snobbish, but consider this. Edmund Spenser was the son of a tailor, Christopher Marlowe was the son of a butcher, and Ben Jonson's dad was a bricklayer. The big question regarding the authorships of these plays is, who cares? They're great works. We should read them. And the summary song is to be Shakespeare or not to be Shakespeare. Bill Shakespeare was a phony, so some people say. He was way too stupid to ever write a play. Marlowe must have written them, the critics claimed and crabbed. But many plays were written after Chris was stabbed. Was it the Earl of Oxford? Did Ben Jonson write the plays? I wonder now if Jimmy really wrote Purple Haze. Just go ahead and read them, and let's please be clear. Much ado about nothing is what we deal with here.
Wow.
Weird news.
You're the only guy I know that can connect Hendrix with Shakespeare.
Yeah, Gene Roddenberry and Agatha Christie.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. They're all kind of in the same purview.
That's a great one. Yes, applause. There's the prompt. But it's fascinating. We were, and as we mentioned, not to keep our home audience in suspense, but Joe is working on a production, a local revival of the complete works of William Shakespeare, abridged. Tell us about it, Joe. We're excited.
Please do.
For those who haven't seen it, there's a group of gentlemen that wrote, called the Reduced Shakespeare Company that wrote a comedy involving three people that touches upon all of the plays that Shakespeare wrote in one show. It's about an hour and a half long, and it's a romp. Othello is done as a rap song. Hamlet is done, then it's done faster, then it's done backwards.
I love it.
It is, and it's part of a revival in over 20 years ago. Sean Measles and Michael Campbell and I were directed by Foster Campbell in the first time we did it here at the acting company, and it was a complete sellout. It was a riot. Everybody just loved it. And then about 10, 12 years later, I redid it as the director, and I cast Jeff Graham, Mark Johnson, and Anthony Dose. And all of the guys except for Michael, who actually works for a living as an actor in New York now.
New York, right?
Yeah, they're all coming back. We could talk Mike into it, but we can't pay scale. So,
yeah.
But
that union stuff. And did I hear that the old days of equity waiver are gone? My brother works at a theater in LA as a volunteer. They have a 99-seat house, and it used to be that there was that 99-seat equity waiver caveat where union actors could perform as long as the house capacity was 99 or less. And he told me last week when I talked to him before the show that he's got some equity actors that they work with. They love to do this stuff. They can't do it anymore because they've gotten rid of that waiver. So anyway,
Well, that's a
Yeah,
shame.
I think I'm not. How am I sounding, Gay? Gay Galvin just
Much-
jumped in.
oh yeah,
Is
much.
much better. Okay, good.
Yeah, you're
So,
louder.
It's I am excited. I haven't acted in over 20 years in that show, and it's still one of my favorite ones because the comedy is so good. You know, if you deliver your line where it's supposed to go, you're gonna kill
Good.
them. They're gonna die laughing. You have to stop and wait for them to stop laughing.
Oh,
And
Well, so when's this going to happen, Joe?
we're looking at the end of January and beginning of February. Those 2 weekends, we're going to try and do 4 shows, 2 matinees and 2 evening performances, and then over at the Sutter Theater. So really
Fantastic.
excited about that. We're looking at doing it maybe 3/4 in the round because
fun.
it allows it is an audience interactive show.
Oh, good.
And yeah, so it is meant to be in the round almost. So
Costumes will be encouraged. So all you
yes,
Renaissance
yes,
Festival enthusiasts out there,
it's Shakespeare, baby. Wear your best frilly shirt.
come on. Oh, I'm excited.
On
Thanks for
a
doing-
kind of a sad, happy note, your band Cadillac Ride lost Rick McFall, the very
Yes.
talented Rick McFall, passed away, and we wish his family well. But I see you guys are back riding again, so
Yes. Actually, Rick gave us a suggestion, or basically he replaced himself
Oh,
with a gentleman named Dave Duke, and Dave is an incredibly good bass player and a singer. In fact, we're adding more songs to our list because Dave can sing ZZ Top and Leonard Skinner and those kind of things. So he's actually, it's really nice because we're carrying on as a band, which I'm sure Rick would like us to do.
of course he would, and he may, for him to provide his own replacement is a sweet
Wow.
thing.
Yeah, and we were really tickled that Dave's so good because he could have suggested a guy that was really crappy, and then we'd had to hang on to him.
Yeah, but I wasn't available anyway, Joe. So
oh, that's
So,
great.
that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually played last night in Paradise at a place called Jen's Place.
Oh,
It was,
I wonder where it was. Okay, I saw the post. I didn't realize
Yeah.
it was Paradise. Wow.
it's bittersweet. Driving up there is a little tough, and with the smoke yesterday, it was almost nightmarish. A little flashback of, and there's so much missing. There's so much forest that's gone.
Mm.
And so yeah, but it's nice to see they're back at it. I mean, Jen's Place is open. There's businesses springing up, houses are springing back up. So
It's
resiliency.
good. Some of the clientele I have, some people who were in the fire, traumatized by the fire, I see in my psychotherapy practice, and it's difficult for at least 2 of them to even drive up there. The PTSD that 7 hours down that mountain trying to escape those fires in the dark, bumper to bumper traffic, things blowing up all around you, left a lot of scars. And I had 7 clients totally from the campfire with varying degrees of responses, and I'm glad to say they're all doing well. They're not getting as much money from PG&E as they expected or as they deserve, I think, but that's a political issue that I'm just bringing that up because I would like to raise some awareness of anybody that can put a little pressure on PG&E saying pay these people what they deserve. But yeah, it's. I'm glad, Joe, that you did that. I'm glad. It sounds like you were among the people bringing new life to a devastated area.
Yeah.
So
Dave
good for
was-
you and good for
Dave
the
was
ride.
a big part of that. That's his people. He was up there, and that's why he asked us, "You guys, you mind driving up to Paradise?" And it's like, no, they need music. We'll take music.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I'm sure they do. Yeah, they need
Yeah.
music and they need life and they need new life. And so good for you
Yeah.
guys. That's great.
Oh man, the arts. It's my firm belief that arts is what will save us.
Yeah, of course.
That whole art therapy thing. Whether
Yes,
you
indeed.
know it or not. I mean, it's kind of part of the deal, isn't it? I mean,
Well,
it's like what
yeah,
in any form, way, shape, or form, art is therapeutic.
Yeah, try to find a way to create something that replaces something lost. There's a lot of different ways to look at how valuable creativity is in the healing process. To externalize your pain, to put something that's inside and put it into a canvas or into a song or into a story, is healing. And so, yeah, and then going out and dancing to some good old country rock music is pretty darn healing as
You
well.
bet.
So,
You bet.
yeah, that's great. That's great.
Oh, well, let's. Should we invite on our special guest today?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
All right, good. And our special guest is none other than Tom Galvin.
I was
well,
backstage.
Tom! Oh, it's been so long,
the
Tom.
arts.
Tom,
This
you're
is-
looking great, man.
Well,
How have you
thank
been?
It's so nice of you to have me on.
Well,
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah.
well, it's great to see you in this kind of new role.
Yes,
Not just
yes.
co-host, but special guest.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I'm the guest today. Could somebody let me know? what's
It's you're always so kind and generous with the compliments for others, and let me return the favor here. You're your basic Renaissance man, but I don't know how many languages do you speak.
I speak English, and then
Okay,
I speak
all right.
English slang,
Okay,
and then I speak English scatology.
Great.
I-
Okay.
and I speak English that's sometimes slurry. So various forms of English, about four
Well,
different
that's good.
languages.
All right, good.
Yeah.
We'll give you credit for that.
Yeah.
A couple of instruments, and
Yeah, a couple
but
of
no, all
instruments,
kidding
yeah.
aside, I mean, you're a musician, you're a songwriter, you're a poet, you're a novelist, so you're handy with the prose, and just an amazing, talented,
Yeah.
creative guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Welcome, Tom Galvin, to All
Well,
About the Arts.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's great to be here.
So talk about you've been hosting open mic poetry events for us online this last year and a half, of course. You created a new program, Solo Sessions, where you bring on special guest artists from around the country, folks you've worked with and performed with or just happen to know. You've been part of this crew since the inception at the radio station, and then you have this whole career as a novelist. Talk about your latest project, or what have you done? What are you doing now? What do you hope to do?
Well, in all humility, what I do for a living is I'm a psychotherapist. I'm somewhat semi-retired at this point, but I keep a practice going here in my little grandmother apartment behind my house, and I love that. I think counseling, psychotherapy is my bliss. It's a one-on-one kind of creativity, or sometimes with couples. It has its own creative elements. You have to think on your feet. You have to be listening and responding in new ways. You have to try to say things that maybe people haven't thought of or haven't heard it said in certain ways, to say, maybe see a light comes on and they go, oh, that's a new pathway. That's a new way to proceed. So that's my first commitment. And then, but before I did that, I was a traveling musician for 20 years. And then realizing that I wasn't going to grab that gold ring on the merry-go-round, somebody else was going to, somebody else's songs were going to rise to the ascendancy and not mine. Then I went back to help out with my family back in Ohio after I'd been on the road for many years after my mother died, and didn't want to go back to Ohio, but it turned into a kind of a really exciting time. I was able to be helpful to my dad. I met Gay, my wife, there. I thought I should maybe go back to school and get an education, but final exams in my freshman year, back in a long time ago, during final exams, I had gone on the road to play in a rock band. And so I missed all my final exams, and so I had like a 0.000 grade point average. But I walked into my old University of Toledo in Toledo, Ohio, just to say, what would it take for how I need to get a job. I need to do something besides music, because now I have a wife and maybe a family coming. And so I walk into this place and they say, go up to the 5th floor to University College. And I go up to University College, and there's this guy, Ted McHugh, an Irish guy. And his best friend is John Connolly, another Irish guy who owns Connolly's Irish Pub and has a Saturday afternoon radio show, Irish Music. And Ted's heard me on his show, and he's seen me play at his club, and he's seen me play at some of my regular gigs, and he says, I love your music. And he said, you've been on the road how long? And I said, about 20 years. He said, what have you done? Well, I've managed bands, and I've hired, I've done this thing, I've organized this. I walked out of there junior in college. He gave me so much lifetime credit. I was halfway through my junior year in college.
Now, this is, may I ask, delve into that just a little bit more? I have not a similar story, but a similar college career, but I had to write a book to get college credits. Experiential learning through the Excel program at the University of Maryland. And they made me work. Were they able to grant credit just based on the
Yes, they
conversation?
just granted me credit, and I did have to
Yeah.
I did have to isolate that I did things business wise.
Yeah.
And so, but no, I didn't have to write a book. By that time, I'd written 3 books, 3 novels. I have them. They're somewhere in this room here, but they're so dusty. The layers of dust on them will not allow me to pick them up anymore. It's thick. Unless I get a backhoe, I can't actually read those books. But
Come
but
on.
more recently, I've done some things that I'm kind of proud of, and we've decided to go ahead and self-publish.
Did you have to pay for the credits?
No, I did not have to pay for the
Killing
credits,
me.
and so I get a bachelor's degree within the next couple of years. I get a bachelor's degree, and then I get this job in Columbus, Ohio, working with people with at that time it was called mental retardation, MRDD, mental retardation, developmental disabilities, and then they paid for my master's degree. They paid for the bulk of my master's degree, and by that time I knew that I probably should be a shrink. That everything I did with music and everything I did with writing was about human emotion and human feeling, and I thought, I think that's my natural bliss, is to listen to people and give them feedback, and to try to have some concern for what they're going through. So, I became a psychotherapist, and I worked in the inner city of Toledo, Ohio, which is a mini Detroit, which is about 50 miles from Detroit. So I saw a lot of real tough stuff and a lot of really kind of disenfranchised lives, and people that could not, just were dealing with a lot of issues. And after that, I did that for 9 years, and then I went into private practice, and I still have my own practice here in this humble, my desk is behind me, and here's my office here, and people come and we talk, and I hope I'm helpful. But in the meantime, so I do that about, I used to see 40 clients a week. I'm down to maybe 10 to 15 a week. I just want to keep my hand and keep doing it, but that gives me all kinds of time to do other things. And
40 sounds like a load.
A lot of load, yeah. We'd see a lot of people in the clinic, and then in my private practice when I was first building it, I'd be working 5-6 days a week, and then doing other stuff on the weekend to get through my master's and get all this stuff started. Especially transitioning to private practice, you start out with a few clients, and you have to do a lot of other things, a lot of side gigs before your clientele builds up. So that's a creative thing that is my first responsibility. I have to let go of everything else if I'm shirking my practice. But I have plenty of time now to write and to work with you guys. And so I've been so blessed to have met both of you and Abby, and to be kind of welcomed into this art scene here locally, because I don't feel like I'm working in a vacuum. I feel like if I'm doing something creative, and Joe, you must feel the same way, that there's, so many people don't have these kinds of outlets to manifest their creativity. Right. And so I'm really thankful that I've had the opportunity to do shows at the old, what used to be the Burroughs Theater, and
Still is.
Yeah,
Still is.
A great
changed.
person, and
Our great founder, Lee Burroughs.
And now we're doing some stuff at the new theater, at the Sutter Theater. And it's just we've been really blessed to be in Marysville, and to meet you people, and to have these creative outlets. I'm very thankful.
We feel blessed that you're here, because you and Gay add so much to what was already here, and you're kind of like the spice in our dish. You bring up the level. Well, you make it even better. So
thank you. Gay provides the music for so many things now, that really she's doing the children's choir. She's now working in a big band. She's starting a big band. She's usually the pianist and the musical director of the applause shows, and so she's a real additive to the local scene. And then I come along for the ride sometimes. But I'm very fortunate that she's
knock it off.
she's got a concert with the Gay Galvin Trio coming up too.
Yeah, the Gay Galvin Trio is coming up. Going to be at the where is that? Is that going to be?
Sutter Theater.
That's
Yeah.
going to be at the Sutter Theater.
Oh,
Yeah,
I can't wait. You know, it's one of the things about that theater that I have loved since day one is the sound quality in that black box.
yeah,
It just sounds so good.
yeah.
You know,
So that's
nothing against Lee Burroughs, but
Yeah,
you know,
it's a different experience. It's
It
bigger.
is.
It's a different experience.
it's got more. It's got more presence. know?
From me, I kind of like the proscenium of the Burroughs
Yeah.
for some things.
Right.
I think that'd probably be better for Applause. Is my view is that Applause is suited for the Burroughs.
And
The
we-
Burroughs is suitable for Applause.
It's kind of be weird to try and do it somewhere else.
Yeah,
know?
It's just coming backstage. You know, the whole entrance and the things that we do, the side entrances, and
A funny little space that just
Yeah.
works
You know,
like crazy. Yeah.
Janet Fry coming out and smoozing all the old guys.
Yeah.
All the bald old
Doing,
guys like
doing
me.
Santa Baby, right?
And doing Santa Baby and turning everybody on, and I think those things are suited for the Burroughs. So
Wait till it
But-
gets painted here. Next couple of weeks, it's going to be painted inside. So
Oh,
yes,
sweet.
there's some good work going on
Yeah,
there.
it is. It is. Yeah. If you guys out there in the world, if you haven't got a chance to drive by and look at the outside, it is just stunning what they've done. You guys really done a great
we've
job.
done
Dave.
what we've done.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We've done.
They. What do you mean they?
Hey.
You're on the board, Joe. Take credit.
Yes.
Tom, talk about some of the books.
Yeah.
The new stuff. What's going on? What are you working on? But
Well, last April, I guess it's a year ago, April now. There was going to be a book signing schedule for a book that I wrote called The Hidden Room, and the premise being a house in an old town quarter that had been built in the 1920s and was torn down in the mid 80s to make room for a hospital expansion. But in the meantime, 6 different occupants lived in the house over time, and each has a story. Each main character in each segment of the story at whatever time they lived in the house has some kind of a crucial turning point in their life. And the turning point happens because there's a room in the house that's only seen at a point of crisis. It's a room in the attic. The attic plays a role. For some reason, everybody winds up going to the attic for one reason or another. And an attic that some of the occupants some people are guests and they don't know there's a room up in the attic. Other people live there and never saw the room until there's some crisis point, and then they see a little light at the end of a little hallway that they'd never noticed before, and then there's a door, and they walk through the door and come out having a transformative experience. And that happens to 6 characters over 6 years, and the first character is a young woman who's been a flapper. She's a flapper in the 20s, and she's a party girl going along to a party with a friend, but she has an experience there that makes her realize, this is done now. I'm done with this party. This is not going to be my life. And so the second person who lives in the house is a gangster, and that's kind of a little crime story within this.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah, the third character. There's. I'm going to skip the third and go to the fourth, which is a young woman who's a poet, and her mother just died, left her a lot of money, so she moves into the house temporarily, and invites her cousin in, who's also down on his luck. They're both poets. And there's some conflict and some gender issues, some gender preference issues that go on. Fifth is a bunch of college students, now that the houses have all been made into apartments, and
Right.
kind of, from across the street, they see this house, it's nice, and one of the guys is an artist, and he's painting the house, and suddenly he realizes, wait a minute, I never saw that room before, I painted the whole house, so they enter the house and have spooky experiences. And then the fifth one is a reprisal of chapter 3, and I thought, can I read something
Please.
from this? So chapter 3 is the tonic. It's kind of the lighter part about a ne'er-do-well guy who meets this girl who he falls in love with. She's filthy rich. Her parents are rich. And he's a very shallow, superficial guy who develops character and develops quality as he goes along. But this is... the title is given the year, what year it is. This is Jimmy and Effie, 1940. Jimmy Peters did not rush into proposing to Effie Harward in March of 1940. She was very attractive and thoroughly devoted to Jimmy, but she was the no-nonsense type who would not abide simply, quote, playing around, something Jimmy had a history of enjoying. He really liked being with Effie, but marriage would lead to some expectations that he actually do something to support a family, and that, of course, would mean finding employment. Jimmy liked the minimal amount of work that he had to do to support his bachelor life. He only regretted not being financially able to work less. They had been dating since the first of the year, having met at a New Year's Eve party introduced by their respective dates. Jimmy had kissed his date at midnight, rushed to cut in on Effie's date, and broke up their lip lock so that he, Jimmy, could show Effie what kissing's all about. Effie's date had angrily proceeded to separate the two and deliver a 6-inch punch to Jimmy's right cheek, followed by a split second by a hand slap to Jimmy's left cheek by Jimmy's date. The room had frozen in the middle of Old Lang Syne until Jimmy, his hand patting both cheeks to make sure they were both there, broke out laughing, infecting Effie, then her date, then Jimmy's date, until laughing and kissing spread throughout the room. Jimmy and Effie's date shook hands, Effie and Jimmy's dates hugged, all four switched partners, and let old acquaintance be forgot. So it goes on from there with Jimmy being introduced to her parents, and they're saying things to him like, "Oh, you're the young man that wants to marry my daughter for her money." And, just all kinds of things happen where he's kind of, this ne'er-do-well's kind of welcomed in and given everything he wants until everything he wants starts to become shallow and superficial, and now he starts to want more until he eventually finds it's World War II time. And so through the book too, there's references to the history of what's going on in the world at the time. So that's Jimmy and Effie, and that's kind of my favorite part of this. Is just it's kind of a light, funny, romantic kind of thing.
It's a great. Hold it up, Tom. Is that a copy?
Well, I don't have the book. I've given all my books. I've given all my
shit.
books away. And just the other day, I gave a book to a client who said, "I'm going to read this tonight and bring it back tomorrow."
My copy's downstairs, but widely available, I think, on Amazon.
Yeah, on Amazon, you can just go.
The Hidden Room.
Yeah, Tom Galvin, The Hidden Room. If you're an Amazon member, it's free. If you're not, it's $374. No, it's one of the cheaper books on there. It's about $275 or something, so it won't break the bank.
And I'll bet you'd even sign it for any local fans.
Yes, right? I would be glad to. I'd ride my bicycle to your house to sign it, so if I had a bicycle. But,
well,
yeah.
No, it's a great read. Highly recommended. It's just delightful.
Yeah, I
and
don't
all
have
that social quality that houses, the multi-generational houses take on. I had one in LA where I live now. Is not that old, but it's an interesting feeling, and then for you to explore the different families and dynamics over the decades.
We lived in an old house in Ohio in a beautiful old neighborhood, and I always thought about the ghosts in the room.
Yeah.
Whose spirit is still here? It was built in 1921, and by this time it was 1998 when 2002 we moved in. Where are the ghosts in the room? Who was happy in this room? Who played here? How many kids ran around in this big house? And so and then Gay woke up one morning and said, I just had the weirdest dream, and it's a recurrent dream that I have, and it's the house that I grew up in. All of a sudden I find this room that I never knew about before, and we were lying in bed.
Really?
I said, "Hey, that's the story."
Wow, that's where it came from? Oh, I love it.
Yeah, that's where it came from, and so we came up with the story. So, I'm kind of proud of that book. I think it moves well, and the people that have read it have given me really good feedback. And so it's called The Hidden Room. And again, I don't have the link to it right off the hand. It's just go to Amazon, and for Tom Galvin.
It's in our chat, Tom.
Oh.
That Shantae person is way ahead of you.
Oh, hey, Shantae, thank you. Thank you very much. That's great. If anybody reads it, I hope you enjoyed it. It was certainly fun to write. And that's the thing about writing. It's a lonely thing. And I used to do it because I thought I had some talent in that area, but it was always really hard to get down and get back in the day with a notebook and pencil. I handwrite, and then I type it later.
Oh, do you? Do you still do that?
No, I type now. I just word process everything.
Right on the computer, yeah.
So,
but I'd always... Go ahead, Joe.
I've been reading about George Lucas, and he described it as bleeding upon the page.
Yeah.
when he wrote Star Wars, he made himself go upstairs to his writing room
Right.
every day for 8 hours a day, and some days he would come down with nothing written.
Yeah,
8 hours of sitting there twirling a pencil. Oh, I couldn't
yeah,
imagine.
I know that.
Could not imagine.
I just think the empty screen now. It used to be the empty page. It's
Right.
like what speak to me. I just and sometimes I just write. I have nothing to say, and before long I've got something to say. So there's a lot of different ways to jog it.
It's
Yeah.
funny you mentioned that quote from Lucas. I hadn't heard that because I'd heard a similar quote attributed to Hemingway. I looked it up the other day. Hemingway said something like, "There's no difficulty writing. You just sit down at the typewriter and bleed," or something
Yeah.
to that effect. I looked it up. Turns out Hemingway didn't invent it either. It's been recycled over the
Okay.
generations by a number of writers. So that's interesting that Lucas picked up on that.
Well, Lucas, his story, he wasn't a great student in school, but he was a voracious reader. He
Oh,
loved to read, and in movies, the classics, foreign films, he would just devour them. So
yeah.
there's two
Well,
two food comments, Tom. Two. No,
he must have done something right. He managed to get himself into the USC Film School.
yeah.
Yes. So,
And then blew everybody away with his first film.
THX 1138, was that the
Yep.
one? Yeah, with
Yeah.
Robert Duvall. Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
Someone.
he's a treasure. I mean, he's brought us so much joy. So I'm
So-
glad he did a little bleeding.
Oh my
Well,
gosh, no question.
I'm glad he got lucky. There, his story. He skated by a couple times where if it had went the other way, he would have had nothing.
Yeah.
So, what are you bleeding over these days, Tom?
Yeah.
Well, then so we were going to have the book signing, as I
signing.
said, in April, and now we're going to have it in October.
Right.
And it's going to be nice because my sister, who does the artwork, is a fine graphic art, a fine artist, not graphic artist,
Yeah.
but she's also a graphic artist. She's kind of a Silicon Valley pioneer, and her husband is
That's
Mark
part of your
Leiter, is
family over there. Okay.
yeah, in the Bay Area. Her husband won an Academy Award for film for technological advances in film. So they're heavy hitters artistically, and so she's done the cover for my first book. And now, and since we couldn't do the first signing, I've collected short stories I've written over the years and some new ones that I've been writing, and I've got a second book now. So when we do the signing in October, I believe, at the in the lobby at the Sutter Theater, we're going to have the
In the
signing.
the atrium. It's
In the atrium, yes. Gay will be providing music. My sister will be displaying some of her artwork, and I'll be reading from some of the books. And so
Oh, my
we
gosh.
hope it's going to be a good party, a good time.
Oh.
But in the meantime, I'll have a second book, which is going off. We just finished proofing all the stories,
Oh,
and it's these stories that we've collected. I'd like to read a little bit from one of those as well.
please.
Um,
Does
but,
the collection have a title yet, or?
the collection does. Yes, it does. The first story is called "The Sweetheart Soap Girl," and it takes place in the late '50s in Greenwich Village, and so there's a little color with Thelonious Monk playing at some of the clubs there, and some of the art clubs, and people,
Nice.
some of the artists. So it gives a little bit of the history of the village, and there's a guy who paints. He wants to be like Mark Rothko. He wants to be, a modern artist. But what he's really good at is portraits, just naturalistic portraits. That's his skill. And he's got a picture that he painted of his ex-girlfriend, who he's still in love with. And he gets a showing of his portraits, and somebody finds out, they see this painting, and they want her to be the new Sweetheart Soap Girl. They want her to be the face of Sweetheart Soap. And now, so he's got to go negotiate with his ex-girlfriend, with whom he's still in love, because he's going to make a $200,000 advance after never having made any money at his art. But she's now on to some other guy, and he's running for a elected office, and he thinks it would be unseemly to have his wife be a model. So that's kind of the gist of what's going on here. It's called The Sweetheart Soap Girl and Other Stories. And so the artwork is going to be something like you'd imagine for a soap package,
Right.
So with a think of St. Pauli girl, or think of When It Rains and Pours.
Well, I'm thinking of Marilyn. I'm thinking of Marilyn Chambers.
Well, I wasn't thinking of
As a
Marilyn
child.
Chambers,
I mean, as a
David.
young-
Yeah, well,
Oh,
David,
no?
I don't know. We all know that as a child she was the Ivory Soap Girl.
Well, come on.
But the Sweetheart Soap Girl does not.
That's not what
wind
you're
up-
going for, that
no,
illusion?
there will not be a porn queen conclusion to the
Sorry.
Sweetheart Soap Girl. But the second story then is called Boy Meets Girl, a really unique title. But this is two guys whose band has broken up, and they're metal band, they're metal rockers, heavy metal, and they live in this garage in a house that's owned by a young woman who's also gotten some funding from inheritance, but she's agoraphobic. She hides out in her room, and she loves these two guys. They're her friends, but they live in her garage and they play their music, and they're thinking about getting their band together. And at one point, they accidentally, a song bleeds in it. It's "Peace in the Valley" by Red Foley. And no, it's not called Boy Meets Girl. That's a whole other story. This is called Peace in the Valley, this one.
Okay.
Yeah, and so Peace in the Valley, and they're metal guys, and so turn that off, turn that, and the one guy says, no, leave it on. Let's learn that. So they do a bastardized version of Peace in the Valley, and they decide to do this every day at 5 o'clock. Take they're atheists. They've got some friends that are into demonology, all the crazy metal stuff. So they want to make a mockery of Peace in the Valley, and so every day at 5 they open the garage door, and they do this metal version of Peace in the Valley that's kind of offensive, and they start to build up a following, and come to find out crime in the area goes down on the days when they're doing this. And so all they're trying to do is go viral. And they're doing this all living in the garage of this woman who supports them but can't come out of the house. So I just want to read a short section about why she can't, what her backstory is.
Wow.
She's called Polly. I'm going to turn my light on again here. Let me see.
That's why you turn the light on.
That's right. I've got it's dark in here, so I don't
leave it on.
flash out. Polly had so she hears Peace in the Valley. Polly had sung in Sunday school. She had two guitars of her own, a Strat and a Martin acoustic. She watched instructional videos from 1 to 2 hours daily, pausing, rewinding, or freezing the video as she picked out the notes and riffs being illustrated on the monitor. She had no huge concern about how good or bad she was. It calmed her down and was particularly helpful when her breathing became strained and her heart was at a pre-racing stage and her thoughts were coming fast, furious, and full of doom. When she managed to catch the fear before it grew into panic, she would grab the Strat, slide her fingers up to the 6th fret B-flat, Chuck Berry's famous intro licks in For Johnny Be Good. She still stumbled through it. It wasn't flawless, but it slowed down her racing heart and redirected her focus from fear to working the fretboard. Getting that out of her system, she might switch to the Martin and fingerpick a ballad, like she was doing now. If playing guitar didn't slow the panic, she had paper bags to blow into, placed here and there throughout the house. The song she was fingerpicking was Peace in the Valley. At Sunday school, she had paid little to no attention to any of the lyrics she was singing, any more than she was tuning into the sermons and Bible stories. But she remembered getting a little thrill up her spine at the part where they sang, "There'll be no sorrow, no sadness, no trouble, my Lord. There will be peace in the valley for me." Something about that moment in the song caused her spirit to rise. Of course, that was before Polly was being nightly visited in her bedroom by her third or fourth stepfather, in quotes. She couldn't remember which. It would happen when Mom would end a big, violent shouting match by storming out of the house and heading off to the bar. Sometimes she would bring another, quote, stepfather home before kicking out the current monster. It might have gone on had she, at 12 years old, not been fully clothed under her bed sheets with the drug money she'd taken from his wallet in her jeans pocket and a baseball bat held tightly in her two fists. Even if the squeaking door hadn't alerted her to his approach, his drunken breath following the room would have done the trick. She waited as the smell came closer. She held her breath as his hand pulled back the covers. Though the bat landed precisely in the middle of his forehead above the bridge of his nose, he was not dead, only unconscious, for long enough for Polly to grab the small parachute bag and bolt out the door, down the stairs, and into the street. She had only met her mother's brother twice. He was not like her mother. She knew this because whenever her mother mentioned her big brother, Nate, she almost always said, "He thinks he's so much better than I am." Instinctively, Polly knew that he was. She had looked up his address. She could get there by bus. Fearing stepdad might have revived, she ran across the street, seeing a bus approaching, heading in the right direction. She was not looking both ways, but almost escaped being sideswiped by a Mini Cooper and hurled onto the sidewalk. Almost, but not quite. So long ago, so long a recovery. Her body healed after extensive retraining, but her appraisal of her experience led her to the conclusion that running outdoors to escape the painful abuse had led to physical pain with very little let up for 2 years. She never trusted the outdoors again.
Wow. All righty then.
So, kind of a heavy part in a lighter story, but I thought it was a pretty good description of agoraphobia, panic attacks, and some of the things that happen as a result of ongoing sexual abuse to a child. But she heals, and she heals, and she heals through the music, and she's able finally to come out and one of the two guys who sings is very narcissistic, has an exalted view of himself, and he finally becomes a Jesus freak, and she becomes a rocker, and so it does have a happy ending. But I thought that was
wow. I'm so glad that the Fender Strat's going to be used.
Yeah,
I was worried about that.
Yeah, no, she comes out of it. She heals, and the healing is through love. She loves the other guy. She loves the bass player, but she can't touch. She's touch aversive, and he slowly takes her through a exposure where she thinks maybe I could go outside at night, late at night when nobody's out. So slowly he walks her to the door. She runs back in, takes her a few steps out. Finally, she's able to walk down the block, and slowly and surely through what's called exposure therapy, she grows confidence. She grows she overcomes some of her fear, and she's been learning to play guitar. So she finally replaces him. They do the heavy metal version of Peace in the Valley, and it's just kind of a sweet story at the ending. So
great story.
I should say a lot of happy endings in my story, and people object to that. They don't think it's reality based. My life has been a bunch of happy endings.
What?
My life has been a bunch of happy endings. I thoroughly believe that happy endings can be just as valid and just as reality based as tragic endings, and so. I respect.
That can happen.
Yeah, I respect good tragedy. I respect life unfolding and learning lessons from difficult things that happen that lead to disaster and tragedy. But that's not what I write.
About how many stories in the collection?
There'll be 9 stories in the collection. One's a long mystery. One's the Cali Gaylord. It's maybe a series. I also wrote a trilogy of mysteries that took place in a little town called Weehawken in Wisconsin. A made-up town.
It's right next to Lake Wobegon.
And so it's a young writer that wants to make it, but he's working in a hotel owned by an artist who goes up on top of the hotel and draws the same picture every day of Lake Michigan and or Lake Ontario, and so it's kind of an interesting series of mystery writings that takes place over three books. So I write a lot, but this is the Cali Gaylord thing. Obviously, there's the name Gay. She's a piano teacher. She's traveling to house, and she goes to this very wealthy place on the Outer Banks on an island, gets caught in a storm, and there's a murder that happens. And so, there's a long kind of novella murder mystery in the middle of this other stories. But I'm very proud of it. I'm very happy with it. I've written a lot of stuff that I toss or never try to publish, and this stuff I thought, okay, this is fun. I think it's fun. I think it's light, it's positive, it's up tempo. So
you write it and read it later, and if it's still passes muster, then it
If it's, I rarely like something the first time, but I often go back to things and say, what was I thinking? That's not bad. That has legs, and so
and it'll be published and ready for purchase and signing in October.
Yes, it's we're taking it to the publisher. It took us a long time to proof it because Gay proofs everything. I read this stuff 3 or 4 times, make corrections, clean up typos, but then when I give it to her, she always finds more stuff, and she just finished the final proofreading, so it goes off to Amazon to publish it, and. We should have hard copies here soon.
What's it called? Does it have a title?
It's called The Sweetheart Soap Girl and Other Stories.
Other Stories. I love it.
And the first one is called The Hidden Room.
The Hidden
And
Room.
so The Hidden Room is now available through Amazon. The Sweetheart Soap Girl will be by the time of the signing.
And it's
Oh,
in the chat.
It's
fantastic.
The
yes.
link is in the chat.
That's
Oh,
right.
that's great.
Thank you,
Now-
That's
Shantae, for
great.
putting that up.
That's great.
Now, I know, Tom, you every other week you write a new song for us. But
Yeah,
are you writing any new songs for you?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not so much, and I don't know how you feel about Joe, but I can write for things. I used to write when I transitioned from rock and roll bands to going solo, because I'd manage these bands and people would quit on you, and you'd have things. I mean, I had some really good things. We had a recording thing deal. We made an album back in the day, and I was getting some interest in some three market towns, and I had a couple of the songs published in Nashville, one in LA, and the band broke up. The band broke up, and it's like, oh, come on.
Oh,
So I
man.
went solo, and you know how it is. You go into a bar, which is where soloists play music. You play music in bars, and I'm singing these, heartfelt songs, and everybody's drinking and talking, and so I started. First of all, I started thinking I need some more four-letter scatological words in my song. I need to do a little more cussing and cursing. That'll draw their attention, and I need comedy. So I started writing a lot of comedy stuff, a lot of parodies, a lot of making fun of politicians, and I started getting attention to that stuff. And I was on a roll. I thought I was writing some really funny stuff, and it was working, and people were laughing, and so that's why people came. I worked at a house club right across the street from a big comedy club across the parking lot, and the comedians were coming in to see my act, and it was going very, very well. But then, when I transitioned and became a shrink, I lost a little bit of that comic edge. I really did, and if you don't keep doing it, it's really hard to keep trying to keep being funny, and so all my heartfelt songs, all my soulful songs I wrote earlier, and then the comedy things, and I only, I can sit down and write a song just like that. I can write a song in a minute, but to get those things that used to come out of my heart and out of my soul, I don't know. It's
Hard, huh? Yeah.
it's hard now. It's harder. I feel like I've come to a place of understanding about my life, about the world, and my place in the world, and the need for writing to work through emotions or things a little bit less now. So I'm not as prolific as I used to be. I'm not writing as much, but I do write. I do still write some stuff, and I write the weird news songs, and
Yeah, I know.
Those are fun.
so yeah. I'm doing a show with my nephew. At this point, I'm kind of passing it along to my nephews. We don't have kids, but my nieces and nephews, a lot of them are interested in music. So my nephew Owen Leather is going to be joining me for a
Right.
show we're doing. Owen picked up the guitar a couple of years ago and is blowing me away with his lead work. He's just a natural, and so I want to. If I have a little bit of an audience right now, and I can give my family members, these younger people in my family, a chance to have a little exposure, do a show, do something, get a little feel for performance, then I'm more interested in that in a sense than I am in adding to my own collection of songs.
Well, that's going to be a fun concert, Tom. That's a great segue, if I may. This is Tom's going to pioneer a series of concerts that we're calling Artrium Vibes, and the Artrium is our new kind of working title for the lobby space at the Sutter Theater Center for the Arts. We've been in and out of there, and we're looking at it the other day and saying, gosh, you could do a cool little intimate 30, 40 person concert right here.
Yeah.
And not have to fire up the big black box. We got the bar, we got the concession stand, the art gallery. So that's Tom shows August 21st from 7 to 9 p.m. $15 in advance. And it includes a drink. So, go to YubaSutterArts.org and get signed up and come here, Tom and Owen, for Artrium Vibes.
I think it's going to be a fun show.
Yeah,
It's
I
gonna be
think it absolutely will be. So we're having fun experimenting, trying some different things in the beautiful Sutter Theater space. Later in August, it's probably our first big thing in that space. We've been doing these virtual, we call art fixes, kind of a knockoff of what the Crocker Museum does, their art mix, where you have artists, live music, artists actually creating art, signature cocktails, and just lots of entertainment, costumes. We went to the Mardi Gras theme one. We're going to do one which is a Burning Man theme. So Art Fix Burning Man is going to be August 28th from 6 to 9 p.m. This is a 21 and over event. But we're going to be working on some special effects. Will we actually burn a Burning Man effigy in the theater? Probably not, but I think if we can pull this off, it still could be kind of fun and create that a little bit of that aura that anybody.
I'm thinking of those
don't test-
fireplaces. I'm thinking of those Christmas fireplaces, where you have it on the monitor.
Yeah, we're gonna have a great.
Couldn't you just put like a stick man and create one of those?
Projections. We can do stuff. And special lighting.
That sprinkler system's brand new. Please don't test it.
Not a good idea.
Oh yeah, we don't want to do that. But we're excited. Hey, let me mention something else that's coming up back at our Marysville campus. This will be the first actual art gallery exhibit that we've had in over a year and a half. It's called Birds of a Feather. This is all native California Indian artists who we've met through our sister organization in El Dorado County, Arts and Culture El Dorado. We've got 5 amazing artists coming in and with some digital paintings as well as costume regalia. But it's not something they're going to go wear to a powwow, but something they're calling traditional ecological knowledge. So working with all the traditional materials that Native Americans have worked with, bone and sinew and skins and feathers and other natural ingredients, if you will. And we saw some of this work in El Dorado, at the El Dorado Arts Council in Placerville a couple of months ago. And these artists were excited about having an additional opportunity to show their work. So cool. Watch for Birds of a Feather. And then we're also going to have a gallery talk on September 11th, where the artists are going to be here in town. We'll have a panel discussion, see the artwork, and it's just going to be spectacular.
This is one of those things that in 10 years from now, people will say, I wish I were there then when they did this
that
stuff.
show.
Yeah.
Well, and this is totally unique. It's, something that certainly, at least as far as I can remember, has never been done here. So, and they represent various tribal traditions, Miwok, Wintu, Nisenan, Maidu, Pomo. So we've got a tremendous gathering coming for that. Ongoing things that are out there that are still kind of forming. That's our mariachi orchestra. This is in collaboration with the Alliance for Hispanic Advancement, looking for high school age students with or without music experience that want to be part of a new youth mariachi orchestra. Absolutely free. The instruments, the instruction, whatever notebooks, music books will be needed. All will be provided. Eventually, once we have the orchestra together, we'll provide the charo outfit. So it's going to be the real deal. So all are included and welcome to sign up for that. Just get a hold of us at YubaSutterArts. And then the last big thing that's kind of cooking in the community, and we've gotten our first submissions. This is for our Look at Us Yuba Sutter Film Festival.
Film Festival.
Amateurs,
this is great.
Students, professionals are all invited. We're all filmmakers. You walk around with this movie production device in your pocket and submit anything. The only rules are 13 minutes or less and have to be filmed in Yuba Sutter.
Right here. Yeah, I'm working with Ed on his
good.
His piece. You know what? He has got a really cool story. Tom, you will love it. I'm not going to give anything away.
Okay.
He has come up with a brilliant idea. I'm like, I love the plot on this little film. So
he's a brilliant guitarist, so I wouldn't be surprised that he's got.
He's a creative dude. Yeah. He's got some skills.
I love hearing these stories. Again, we've gotten a couple submissions, and I mean, it's amazing. I keep hearing little bits and pieces. Yes, I'm working on mine, and it's really anything goes. I mean, fiction, nonfiction, documentary, music video, even, hey, you got a little commercial for something else you're working on, send it in, as long as there's a creative process. And again, there's a student category, amateur category, and then we've got some full-on professionals here in town. We're hoping they'll add a little spice by submitting a short as well. So Stony Meager is doing I think he's going to do his based on his new fishing career.
Yeah, his fishing
career.
I think
it should be pretty fun.
Fishing and career. I'm not sure if those go together.
Yeah.
Hey, well, those pros make a lot of money. So
yeah. And they're even fewer than football players. So
we're still kind of watching carefully the new COVID alerts, and I mean
Yeah.
we're ready to open up, but we're still working on our policy and how we're going to handle our public events at both venues, Marysville and Yuba City, and we want to keep everybody safe. Please consider being vaccinated if you're
Please
not.
get vaccinated. Don't listen to the nonsense. Get vaccinated. Save lives. Save lives, please.
We'll have masks at all the indoor events and try to do our part to keep people safe. So.
You will not become a magnet if you get vaccinated. You will not magnetize anybody.
No nanobots. No nanobots.
Yeah. I was kind of curious to see that I was going to be the guest today. I was thinking, well, maybe I should just say, well, so Tom, how long have you been writing? Well, Tom, I've been writing for quite a few years now, but it was nice to actually have other people ask me questions about this.
Yes.
You're not exactly Terry Gross, but it's better than not. No, I'm just kidding.
I've sat and listened to you talk to yourself before. It's not that exciting.
Yeah, so that's what my wife would say.
Yeah.
You talk to yourself all the time.
Oh, it's been fun. Well, I wish I could tell you. Stay tuned. Next month, our guest will be, but I don't know who it is yet.
Well, it'll be somebody fascinating and interesting doing good stuff around. Why don't we interview you, Joe, and then the next time we'll interview David. And
we got to get. There's so many people out there. I can think of a couple that if they're willing to come out, I've been. I don't know about you guys. I know David's the same way. I have been busy. Crazy busy, just lots of stuff going on, lots of exciting things. So
we're working on the Cotton Rosser statue.
Yes,
yeah.
The other day, and big celebration for Cotton Rosser Day.
Yeah.
He's doing well, and we're working on a big bronze statue project.
Bravo!
Commemorate Mr. Rosser.
We're a very active arts community. Yeah. There's a lot of talent here, and whatever this show can do to bring that talent to the forefront, I'm glad to be a part of it. And thanks for throwing some light on what I'm doing. I appreciate that today, you guys.
Yeah.
Loved it. That was great. Can't wait for the book signing.
All right. Okay. You guys take care.
See you soon.
See you, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everybody.